zaru ala tzadik, u'yishrei lesimcha. Or 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 zaru ala tzadik, u'yishrei lesimcha. Welcome, everybody. I see you're sitting nicely spaced apart. Good for you. So we're going to begin Kol Nidrei in a minute. Our tradition in this congregation, as many of you know, and I can see that we have some visitors, is to have on each rotation of Kol Nidrei, we have the presidents in groupings that Justin will announce, either carry a Torah or just be up here, depending on their abilities. And then we can honor all of our presidents, past presidents and current presidents. I said to them in the other room that the best job in the synagogue is past president. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to have you guys rise in just a minute when we open the ark. The ark will be opened. I'm going to officially open the earthly and heavenly courts. We're on page 204. And then we're going to do Kol Nidrei, which I might have told you guys before, but this is my 7th year with you guys, my 7th high holidays with you. And Kol Nidrei is actually, many of the rabbis over the centuries didn't like it because it's basically saying, I'm going to, please, God, please make sure that any vow that I make, it's okay if I don't hold it up. Right? But you don't know what vows you're going to make before you don't hold them up. So they didn't like it, and there was a synagogue in France in particular that the rabbi decided one year, this was in the 13th century, I think, the rabbi decided to cut Kol Nidrei from the service. The tune for Kol Nidrei is so old that nobody knows who wrote it. It's called a Mi-Sinai tune, which means that nobody knows who wrote it. Anyway, the rabbi decided to cut it from the service, and they cut him. He was fired. So we're going to begin with opening the ark, and I'm going to turn and face the ark. So we're going to rise as the ark is open. And I'm going to open the earthly and heavenly courts in the bottom of page 204. And then Justin will organize the first set of presidents. Beshiva shel mala uveshiva shel mata al da'at hamakom val da'at hakahal anu matirim lehit palel imahavayanim. Beshiva shel mala uvishiva shel mata al da'at hamakom val da'at hakahal anu matirin lehit palel im ha'avayanim. Beshiva shel mala uvishiva shel mata al da'at hamakom val da'at hakahal anu matirin lehit palel im ha'avayanim. By the authority of the court on high and by the authority of this court below, with divine consent and with the consent of this congregation, we grant permission to pray with those who have transgressed.
recognize the first group of past presidents that includes those that are here and those that were unable to join us this evening. Larry Blumberg, Maggie Matchevich, Justin Shane, me, Jacob Liederman, Will Rogers, Harvey Giller, and Phil Baer.
Kol Nidrei V'charameh V'kinumeh V'kinameh V'kinuyeh V'kinuseh U'shavut Din Dana Udishtabana Udacharimna Vidasana Al Nafshatana Yom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu L'tova Kuhon Icharatna V'hon Kuhon Yahon Sharan Shevikin Shevitin Betelin Umevutalin La Sharirin Vela Kayamin Nidrana La Nidrei Ve'esarana La Esarei Ushuatana La Shavut.
I'd like to now call up the second group of past presidents: Jody Jacklin, Sheldon Oringer, Steve Weiss, Brad Long, Don Shane, Josh Ingman, Brad Brody, and Frank Markovis.
Kol Nidrei vekoname vekinu ye vekinu se ushavuot dindana urishtabana uraharimna vedasana al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova kuhon icharat navahon kuhon yehon sherahan shevitin betelin umevutalin la sharirin vela kayamin nidrana la nidrei ve'esarana la esarei ushavuatana la shavuot.
Third rotation, call up Alice Friedgood, Mike Cooperman, Lou Hockenberg, Evelyn Mintzer, Tim Urban, Gary Rubin, Bud Hockenberg, Alan Zuckert, Marvin Winnick, and Elliot Brody.
Stand right in the middle, bud. And if you want to join with me, you can. You know you want to. Page 205. Kol Nidrei ve'esarei ve'charamei ve'konamei ve'chinu ye ve'kinu sei ushavuot dindana urishtabana uraharimna vedasana al nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova kuhon icharat navahon kuhon yehon sherahan shevitin betelin umevutalin la sharirin vela kayamin Nidrana la nidre ve'esarana la esare ushevuatana la shevut. We're going to put him away. We're going to put him away. 205. This is the second paragraph on 205, and you have it in transliteration. We're going to do it 3 times, us together, and then I'll do a part by myself, and then we will go back to doing it all together. V'nislach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael, v'lager hagar b'tocham, ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. V'nislach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael, v'lager hagar b'tocham, ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. V'nislach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael, v'lager hagar b'tocham, ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. The entire congregation of the people Israel shall be forgiven, as well as the stranger who dwells among them, for all have erred. Slach na lavon ha'am hazeh kegodel chastecha, v'chasher nasat al am hazeh mimitzrayim vadhena, v'sham ne'emar. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. 205. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. You know this people. Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Okay. Now we're going to close the ark. And then we're going to sit. And then, Jay, just the curtain is fine. We're going to have to open it, I think, another time or two, so. Okay. So now you can all have a seat. And I'm going to invite one of our current co-presidents, Larry Blumberg, up to speak.
Shana Tova to everybody. You know, I haven't spoken in front of a congregation since my speech at my bar mitzvah. And those of you who know me know how long ago that was. And since that time, I have seen a lot of rabbis come in here, cantors, leaders of the synagogue, presidents, sermons, and that's how I got to love this synagogue. And we've continued that tradition. However, the buildings themselves get old. You know what happened to our last sanctuary. I remember from when I first came here in '55. That tells you how old I am. the roof leaked. We'd get it fixed, and then it'd leak again. And we'd close the balcony on the high holidays because it leaked. And finally it gave out, and we built this wonderful sanctuary. But this is going to get old too, and so we have to prepare ourselves for that. So our board of trustees right now is working on a long-term planning system for now and in the future, so that future boards will know what to look out for and to get things done. Mark Schneider, Andy Goodman, Peter Carnes, John Zeman, they have all been working on this. We've had architects and engineers come through this building inside and out. And some of the things we know need to be fixed, they told us, but we found out some other things too that we weren't aware of. Like we have to have this building recaulked now. And so we submitted it to our finance committee, who approved the project, and we voted on it, and we will have that done within the next few weeks. We need a new roof because it's getting old. We'll work on that later. We'll get bids, etc. But the point is that future boards will have a plan to look at and see and plan ahead of time to have these things taken care of. Now, we have good committees. We have good programs for our children, for us, and we will continue those. Now, one of the things that we've done, I think some of you know when you've called the synagogue, you couldn't leave a message. And that was frustrating for everybody. But John Zeman checked that out, found all we needed was a new part. Except they don't make it anymore. He found a rebuilt one is put in. We can now take messages, and we will eventually get a new phone system as soon as we find out what type of Wi-Fi is going to be set up in this part of Des Moines. But right now, everything works. I'm not going to speak long, because when I was young, I hated that. But there are some people that I think need to be thanked. The Women's League. They're wonderful. They work hard. They take donations. They put on, well, tomorrow they're doing the Break the Fast. They put on other lunches and dinners for bar and bat mitzvahs. We need them, and they do a good job. And you don't even have to be a woman to donate to it. For the past few years, we've made or applied for grants from FEMA to make this place safer. And you've seen some of the improvements over the past couple of years. Well, this year we made another application. Our treasurer, Dana, did that, and every part of it was accepted. Thank you, Dana. There are some specific people I want to thank. I want to thank Manuel. He keeps this place in good order. He set up everything you're sitting on now. He put it together, tables, everything. He does a good job, and we appreciate him. Christy, our executive director, she keeps this place together. She does a lot here. She works hard, and we wouldn't be where we are now without her. Thank you, Christy. Sue, what would we could do without Sue? With the rabbi, she teaches our bar and bat mitzvah students. She gets them to read Torah, handle part of the service. And some of you have seen them when you've come here for the services, what they've done. But she doesn't stop there. You will, if you've been to our Rosh Hashanah service, you've been here on Shabbos mornings, you see these same people who've been bar and bat mitzvahed, reading Torah, handling parts of the service. And beyond that, she does it with our adults. We have people, I see you here, who read from the Torah on Saturday mornings, who participate in the services. When I was growing up here, I never saw that. I never saw different people reading the Torah. I never saw congregants doing these sorts of things. This is wonderful. It really is. Thank you, Sue. Deirdre, you do a wonderful job for us at our services, our holiday services. I'm so glad that you do that for us because you make our services so enjoyable. And the rabbi. We are so lucky to have her. She provides good religious counseling. She does the services. She works with people. I really like your home stories.
I like my home stories too.
And I want to thank you for all you've done for our synagogue. But most of all, I want to thank all of you for coming to services, for volunteering here, for contributing to our funds. You breathe life into the synagogue by doing that. We wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do without it. Continue doing that. And if you see a need and there isn't a fund for it, create the fund. That's okay. But don't stop doing that. So, with that in mind, please have a sweet and long life and a good year. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So unfortunately, Maggie is quite sick and is at home. So she's our other co-president, Maggie Matchevich. So Dana Levitt, who you just heard speak about or heard spoken about in regards to our amazing Homeland Security grant. I can't tell you how much it is on live stream, but it's quite a lot. She's going to actually read Maggie's speech instead.
I'm a little shorter than Larry. Not much, though. Thank you, Rabbi, for the introduction. I'm obviously not Maggie, who you were all excited to hear from this evening, but I have a copy of her speech that I'm going to read, and before I start her speech, I'm going to direct you all to this little card that you'll find in your Siddur, and you can take a look at it. Please do not fill it out on Yontif. And
Don't use the QR code on Yontif.
Don't use the QR code on Yontif or a pen, especially in the building. But please, I think Maggie's speech will hopefully inspire those of you to make a donation. Shana Tova, everyone. Allow me to begin by sharing something that might catch you off guard. Tonight, I'm gonna ask for money. All joking aside, I know this is the time for a traditional Kol Nidrei appeal. However, this isn't the speech I wanted to give. I'd much prefer to share something inspirational about our community, to talk about the strong identity and sense of purpose we are giving our children, and the warmth and compassion we share with those in need. However, I can't miss this opportunity, with so many of us here, to talk about our synagogue's most pressing matter. But let's not start on a serious note. We do need some help. Our electricity has a quirky sense of humor, our roof needs a makeover, and our kitchen is, well, let's call it vintage. Now here's the challenge. How do I broach the topic of financial assistance within a group as diverse as ours? Friends, neighbors, peers, and fellow members of our Jewish community, and ensure everyone feels embraced. Among us are those who already go above and beyond, giving generously. Some are contributing at a level that actually affects their weekly budgets, while others are navigating a season where giving just isn't feasible, a time when, if anything, we should be extending our support to them. And then, of course, there are those who are in a position to contribute more. As I stand before you tonight, the question that lingers is, how can I deliver a speech that resonates with each and every one of us, yet also speaks to those we depend on and conveys the true need that exists? Here's my perspective. It was never about anyone's fair share. Our aim isn't to tally up what's equitable. Instead of focusing solely on your own contribution, consider what you're offering for the collective. Think about the impact on those sitting around you. We gather here to foster a spiritual, cultural, and ritual haven for our Jewish community. We're here to pass on a legacy that spans thousands of years, a testament to our uniqueness. But above all, we are here for each other. So let's pause to recall why we convene in this space. Let's remind ourselves of our collective purpose and identity. Let's reaffirm the values we stand for. Tonight, I'd like each of you to take a moment. Reflect not on what our synagogue means to you personally, but what it means to others in this room. What does it signify for a child stepping into the world of Judaism as an adult? What does it hold for a new couple embarking on their journey together? What solace does it provide for those grappling with profound loss, to the elderly, the injured, or the ill? When you think about giving today, I implore you to think of what this synagogue signifies for all of us. Give for them. Give for our shared future. Give for those who are unable to. And to those who can't give financially, those who need extra support, feel the warmth that emanates from every individual in this room. They're contributing for you. They're bolstering you. They stand with you. We're on this journey together. We must be. Lashana Tova. It's wonderful to see you all in this room.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Larry. So this is, as I said earlier, this is my 7th High Holidays with you, so you know all the tunes, I hope, and I invite you to sing along. Last year it was amazing after all the times in COVID where we weren't able to gather to hear everybody's voices, and you are a real awesome backup band. Actually, we sound much more like a choir. So I appreciate all of you for that, and we're going to get started here with the Baruch on page 207. Yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, Baruch. Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. You can have a seat. Baruch atah Adonai our God, ruler of time and space, whose word brings evening. Umavir yom, umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai sevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamidim lo chalenu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hamariv aravim. You have loved your people, the house of Israel, with infinite love. Ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu v'hem negei yomam v'layla v'avatachal tasim mimenu le'olamim. Yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Okay, so on page 208, we're going to do the Shema. And this is the only time of year where we say the second line out loud. So we're going to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in my sermon later. But we're going to do, so if you're like, what's going on? You're going to do both lines out loud. They are bolded for you, and there's also red transliteration on the left-hand side. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam Vaed, Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, V'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha, V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, Asher anochi mitzavecha, Hayom alavavecha, V'shinantam levanecha, V'dibarta bam, V'shivtecha bevetecha, Uv'lechtecha v'derech, Uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha, Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, V'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, Uvisharecha. Please continue silently on your own. Adonai lechem emet. Emet v'emunah kol zot v'kayam. Umalchuto baratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe uMiriam uvnei Esrachanu shira בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראובניך בוקעם לפני משה, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני יעקב, גואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. 211. Allow us, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword and starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us, and you are the sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Who spreads the canopy of peace over us and over all the people Israel and over Jerusalem. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch ata Adonai, hapore sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 212, please rise for the biblical sanctification of the day. So we're on the second paragraph where it says for Yom Kippur. Ki vayom hazeh yechaper alechem letaher etchem mikol chatotechem yai dai 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 lifnei Adonai titaru. Yitgadal v'yitgadal shemei rabah be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlech malchutei v'chayechon v'yimachon v'chayedeko be'Yisrael v'agalav yizman kariv imru amen. Yehi shmei rabah mevorach le'olam u'almei almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitram v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yital shmei l'kudishah brichu le'ela le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru. Okay, so the silent Amidah is going to begin on page 213, and you're going to continue on to page 221 on your own. English, Hebrew, words of your heart, and then we'll come back together on page 223. Page 218. B'sefer chaim beracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום. We're going to go back to page 223, Ya'aleh, which is a piyut, talking about us wanting to connect with God and not being sure that God is ready to answer us at this time. So I think you know the melody. I'm going to do it lai first, or la or whatever I do. It comes out of my mouth, and then we'll go into it, and we switch. We do Hebrew, English, Hebrew, English, Hebrew, English. So that everybody can sing along, and the alternative translation on the left-hand side of your 223 is the translation that we will use. Ya'aleh, oops, da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev, ve'yavo shavatenu miboker, ve'yira'eh rinunenu ad Erev, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Let our voices rise to you in the evening. Our unsung deeds come to you in the morning. So our true redemption shall appear by evening. Ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Ya'aleh inuyenu me'erev, ve'yavo slichatenu miboker, ve'yira'eh na'akatatenu ad Erev, ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Let our outcries rise to you in the evening. Take note of them for your sake in the morning. Pour your mercy upon us by evening. Ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Ya'aleh yishenu me'erev, ve'yavo tahorenu miboker, ve'yira'eh chinunenu ad Erev, ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Let intimations of regret rise to you in the evening, and hopefulness in our gathering come to you in the morning. Then our glory, reflective of you, shall appear by evening. Ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Ya'aleh dovkenu me'erev, ve'yavo gilenu miboker, ve'yira'e bakashatenu ad arev. Ya-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da. Let our confession rise up to you in the evening. May it blaze across the skies in the morning. So the forgiveness of all appear by evening. Ya-na-na-na, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da, ya-da-da-da-da-da. Page 225. The soul is yours, the body is your creation. Have compassion on your handiwork. The soul is yours, the body is yours. Deal with us according to your nature. Haneshama lach, v'haguf po'alach, chusa, chusa, ahalam, ahalach. Haneshama lach, v'haguf shelach, Adonai aseh leman shemecha. Haneshama lach, v'haguf halach, chusa, chusa, alam, ahalach. Haneshama lach, v'haguf shelach, Adonai aseh leman shemecha. Page 226 is the start of the, I think it's 3 times we're going to do the 13 attributes, which you will recognize at the end, and there's definitely a few melodies in here that you will recognize, and we'll do them over and over again. So by the end, if you don't know them, you probably will by then. El erech apayim ata uva harachamim, nikreta v'derech teshuva horeta. God, you are patient, you are known as the source of mercy. You taught the way of repentance today and every day. Call to mind the wonder of your compassion and mercy towards the children of those you love. Turn toward us in mercy, for you are the source of mercy. We approach your presence with supplication and prayer, and with the words you revealed to Moses, the humble one, long ago. Turn away from wrath and let us nestle under your wings, as it is written in your Torah about the day God descended in a cloud. Overlook sin, blot out guilt, as on the day God stood beside him. Hear our cry, attend to our plea, as on the day he called the name Adonai. The red arrow. Ta'avor al paisha v'timche asham kiyom vayityatzeh v'mosham ta'azin shavatenu v'takshiv meno ma'amar kiyom v'yikra b'shem Adonai. Vaya'avo Adonai al panav v'yikra Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'emet, Notze chesed la'alafim, Notze avon v'fesha v'chata'a v'nakeh, V'salachta lavonenu u'lechatatenu u'nechaltanu slach lanu avinu ki chatanu mechalanu malkenu ki fashanu ki ata Adonai tov v'salach ורב חסד לכל קוראיך. All right, page 227, Ki hine kachomer. Again, we're going to do some of this in English and some of this in Hebrew. So you just have to follow along with me when you can. Ki hine kachomer beyad hayotzer, birtzoto mahachiv uvirtzoto mekatzer, ken anachnu beyadcha, chesed notzer, labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer, as stone in the hand of the mason, who preserves or breaks it at will. So are we in your hand, God of life and death. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser. Labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer, ki hine kagarzen, ve'yad hecharash, virtzoto dabek la'ur, virtzoto perash, ken anachnu beyadcha, tomechoni varash, labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer, as a helm in the hand of the sailor, who holds the course or abandons it, and I will. So are we in your hand, good and forgiving God. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser. Labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer, as glass in the hand of the glazer, who shapes or melts it at will. So are we in your hand, pardoner of sin and transgression. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser. Labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer, as cloth in the hand of the draper, who drapes or twists it at will. So are we in your hand, righteous God. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser. Labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer, ki hine kakesef, beyad hatzoref, birtzoto misagseg, uvirtzoto mitzaref, ken anachnu beyadcha, mamsi lemazor teref, labrit habeit, ve'al tefen lahayetzer. 229. El melech yoshev al kisei rachamim, mitnacheg b'chasidut. Mochel avonot amo, ma'avir rishon, marbe mechila lechatayim, uselicha lefoshim. Osei tzedakot, im kol basar varuach, lo cheratam tigmo, lo cheratam tigmo. El horeta lanu, lomar shlosh esrei, zachar lanu hayom berit shlosh esrei, kemo shehodata le'anav, mikedem kemo shekatuv, vayered Adonai ba'anan, vayityatzeh imo sham, vayikra b'shem Adonai, vaya'avu Adonai al panav, vayikra Adonai Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha, V'Chata'a V'Nakeh, V'Salachta Lavonenu, U'Lechatatenu, U'Nechaltanu, Slach Lanu Avinu, Ki Chatanu, Mechalanu Malkeinu, Ki Fashanu, Ki Ata Adonai, Tov V'Salach V'Rav Chesed, Lechol Korecha. Page 232. Now you should remember this because we just did it. El Melech Yoshev al Kisei Rachamim mitnaheg v'chasidut. Mochel avonot amo. Mahavir rishon, marbe mechila lechatayim, uselicha lefoshim. Osei tzedakot, im kol basar varuach, lo cheratam tigmol, lo cheratam tigmol. God, you taught us how to recite the 13 attributes of your name. Remember the promise implied in these 13 attributes, which you first revealed to Moses, the humble one, as it is written, God descended in a cloud and stood beside him, and he called the name Adonai. Vayikra b'shem Adonai, vayavo Adonai apanav, vayikra. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha, V'Chata'a V'Nakeh, V'Salachta Lavonenu, U'Lechatatenu, U'Nechaltanu, Slach Lanu Avinu, Ki Chatanu, Mechalanu Malkeinu, Ki Fashanu, Ki Ata Adonai, Tov V'Salach V'Rav Chesed, Lechol Korecha. Page 233. We're going to rise as the ark is opened. Shema Koleinu, Adonai Eloheinu, Kusrachum Aleinu, V'kabel Barak V'Yirtzon et Tfilateinu. Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha V'Nashuva, Kadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Al Tashlichenu Milchanecha V'Ruach Hoshecha, Al Tikach Mimenu. Al Tashlichenu Le'et Zikna, Al Tashlichenu Le'et Zikna, B'Kvod Kochenu Al Ta'asvenu. Hear our voice, Adonai our God, be kind and have compassion for us. Willingly and lovingly accept our prayer. Turn us toward you, Adonai, and we will return to you. Make our days seem fresh as they once were. Do not cast us away from you. Do not take your holy presence from us. Do not cast us away as we grow old. Do not desert us as our energy wanes. And close the ark. You can have a seat. All right, guys. A game now. You know this one. We're on page 234. Eloheinu v'Elahei avotenu, slach lanu, mechalanu, kapelanu, ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu, anu vanecha ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha ve'ata Adonenu, anu kahalecha ve'ata chelkenu, anu nachlatecha ve'ata goralenu, anu tzonecha ve'ata roenu, anu charmecha ve'ata notrenu, anu fulatecha ve'ata yotzrenu, anu rayatecha ve'ata dodenu, anu segulatecha ve'ata kerovenu, anu amecha ve'ata malkenu, anu mamirecha ve'ata mamirenu. We are insolent, you are gracious and compassionate. We are obstinate, you are patient. We are sinful, you are merciful. Our days are a passing shadow, but you are the one who truly is for time without end. Our God and God of our ancestors, hear our prayer, do not ignore our plea. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are neither so insolent nor so obstinate as to claim in your presence that we are righteous without sin, for we, like our ancestors who came before us, have sinned. Page 235. Ya da 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 ya da 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 Ashamnu Bagadnu Gazalnu Dibarnu Dofi Hevinu Vehirshanu Zadnu Hamasnu Tafalnu Sheker Yasnu Ra Kizavnu Lasnu Maradnu Niatsnu Da 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 Ya da 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 Ya da 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 Saranu Avinu Pashanu Saranu Kishinu Oref da 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 Ya da 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 Ya da 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 Rashanu Shichatnu Tiavnu Tainu Titanu da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 da. Okay, I'm going to ask you to rise for the longer confessional because you're just getting warmed up there. So these are all the big al-chaitz, and we're on page 237. I'm going to start them for you, and then you'll have time to be quiet and all that. Al chet shekatanu lefanecha be'ones uvratzon, and we have sinned against you through hardening our hearts. Al chet shekatanu lefanecha b'li ta'at. We have sinned against you through foul speech, and we have sinned against you through foolish talk. אחרי שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ואחרי שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים, ועל כולם אלוה הסליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. We have sinned against you through denial and deceit. We have sinned against you by taking bribes. We have sinned against you in everyday conversation, and we have sinned against you through conspiratorial glances. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha be'einayim ramot, v'al chet shechatanu lefanecha ba'azut metzach, ve'al kulam Eloah slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kapel lanu. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'frikat ol, v'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'flilut. We have sinned against you through empty promises, and we have sinned against you through baseless hatred. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tzumet yad, v'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'timhon levav, ve'al kulam Eloah slichot, slach lanu, kachal lanu, kapel lanu. I'm going to ask you to stay standing, and we're going to open the ark on page 243, and we're going to do Avinu Malkeinu. If you need to sit, though, you can obviously sit. Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu ein lanu melech ela ata. Avinu Malkeinu, return us to your presence fully penitent. Avinu Malkeinu, send complete healing to the sick among your people. Avinu Malkeinu, remember us favorably. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us for good in the book of life. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of sustenance. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of merit. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of forgiveness. Avinu Malkeinu, hatzmach lana yeshuat v'karov. Avinu Malkeinu, harem karen Yisrael amecha. Avinu Malkeinu, harem karen meshichecha. Shema kolenu v'srachem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lema'an ba'esh lema'an Ba'e va'e shuva mayim al kiddush shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, do this for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu v'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed, v'hoshienu. The ark is closed. Page 245. Yekadav Yekadav Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divrach Yirteh Ve'amlik Malchuteh B'chayachonov Yimachonov Chayedach B'Yisrael B'Gol Zman Kariv Imeru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam U'Olam Me'omaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'duram V'yinaseh V'yitadar V'yit'aleh V'yitlosh V'yitkudesh Brichu Le'ela Mikol Berchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiram Be'alma Ve'imeru, Amen. Yitkabal Sultan Uvaton, the Kol Sokadomon Divishmaya Ve'imru, Amen. Yehei Shamarab Min Shemaya Ve'chaim, Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael Ve'imeru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Huyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael Ve'imeru, Amen. In her book, Kitchen Table Wisdom, Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen writes in her story, The Meeting Place. The places where we are genuinely met and heard have great importance to us. Being in them, they remind us of our strength and our value in ways that many other places we may pass through do not. Remen continues, my medical partner, who had never been ill a day in his life, died suddenly of a massive heart attack at 56. He was a consummate healer and a magnificent friend, and he left both his colleagues and his patients bereft. For weeks, we numbly went through papers and made referrals for the many people who called in, many of them weeping. Finally, the last details were attended to, and we settled down to a future without Hal. Then the patients started coming. For almost a year afterwards, several times a week, I would open the door of my office and find one of Hal's patients sitting in the common waiting room. At first, I would worry that they didn't know about Hal, and I would have to tell them. But they all knew. They had just come to the place where they had experienced his listening, his special way of seeing and valuing them, just to sit there for a bit, perhaps to think about difficult decisions which currently face them. Many patients came. It was terribly, terribly moving. It made me angry with Hal for tending every life so impeccably, except his own. Another colleague who heads the family medicine department at an outstanding East Coast medical school told a story about one of his patients. The patient was a homeless woman whose possessions fit into 2 shopping carts. Once a month, she would bring these up the steep hill to his clinic by lashing them alternately to the parking meters with a belt. First, she would tie one, then wheel the other to the next meter uphill, tie it, go back for the other one, untie it, and wheel it to the meter above the second, until both she and the 2 carts were at the clinic's front door. He saw her once a month on a Wednesday. Her speech was sometimes rambling, and her clothing was filthy and eccentric. This deeply kind and respectful man was not troubled by this. With his usual grave courtesy, he welcomed her into his consulting room, listened to the details of her life, and did what he could to ease her difficult burden. After he had been seeing her for some time, he became aware that she sometimes came to the hospital on days when he was not there. The clinic nurses were puzzled by this at first, as she seemed to know in some mysterious way that it was not her day to see the doctor. After talking with her, they determined that she simply wanted to go to his consulting room. Once there, she did not go in, but would stand on the threshold and slowly and deliberately place her right foot inside the empty room and then withdraw it again and again. After a while, she would be satisfied and go away again. Dr. Remen concludes, the places in which we are seen and heard are holy places. They remind us of our value as human beings. They give us the strength to go on. Eventually, they may even help us to transform our pain into wisdom. The oft-forgotten Avodah service, which will be after Yizkor tomorrow, read in English by John Zeman with select parts chanted in Hebrew by me, vividly describes the sacrificial ritual in the temple on the Day of Atonement, based on Leviticus 16, which we will read tomorrow as our Torah reading, me and David Friedgood, and detailed in the Mishnah. The Avodah service was considered the most solemn moment in the Jewish year, involving the holiest person, the Kohen Gadol, the holiest time, Yom Kippur, and the holiest place, the temple in Jerusalem. Tradition holds that on Yom Kippur, huge throngs of worshipers came to see the awesome ritual and to hear the words of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. This part of the service is the epitome of meeting in a holy place, since the climax of the Avodah service is the encounter between God and the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. After the destruction of the Second Temple, the rabbis were convinced that a yearly recitation of the temple Yom Kippur ritual would give Jews a sense of historical continuity, and created the rest of the public service, which we're going to do tomorrow, to encompass religious poetry and prayers, so that individuals could take responsibility for themselves and their own sins because they no longer had an intermediary. On Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, normally dressed in gold-embroidered garments when performing the daily sacrifices, wore white linen instead. It was also the only time during the year when the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, entered the Holy of Holies in the temple. During the course of the day, he immersed himself and changed his clothes 5 times and washed his hands and feet 10 times. He would then enter the Holy of Holies while the people waited anxiously and hopefully outside, that the high priest would be able to successfully atone for their sins and not die in the process. When the high priest was finished with doing everything exactly as God commanded, then he would emerge to the cheers and blessings of the people that he served. It was at once a very public and a very private event. While in the Holy of Holies, with no one to watch him except for God, the high priest first offered a bull as his personal sin offering, confessing his own sins and those of his family, and finally those of all of Israel. Every time the Kohen Gadol uttered the holy name of God, the Tetragrammaton, which was spoken only on Yom Kippur, the people who could hear prostrated themselves and responded, "Praised is God's name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever," which is in Hebrew, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, which we did earlier after the Shema. This line comes up every time we recite the Shema and in other places too. However, normally when we say the Shema, we are supposed to say that line quietly to ourselves. Yom Kippur is the only day of the year when we say that second sentence out loud. It is a reminder of the people's response to the high priest during the Avodah, and also an expression to God that they and their leader are safe. In teaching about the Avodah service, Rabbi Danny Siegel describes the Kohen Gadol as someone intensely connected to the Jewish people, and yet someone who is also all alone. As he conducts the service, he would think about offering prayers on the people's behalf. According to tradition, the people would listen carefully for the ringing of the bells on his tunic that told them from afar that he was alive. And yet, he was physically and existentially alone. If he fell in the Holy of Holies, there was no one right there to catch him. His encounter with God was intimate. And of course, we know that life is like that. We are incredibly connected to the people we love, the people around us, but there are circumstances that each of us must confront alone. Our missteps, our regrets, certain moments of life that cannot be shared, just by the nature of fully experiencing them in our body and in our hearts. Every year when we come to the services of Yom Kippur, I find myself relating to the high priest of the Torah and the Avodah service. I can imagine that the Holy of Holies, the meeting place where God and the high priest connected in time and space, imparted terror and awe and comfort to the person sent to atone first for himself, and then in ever-encompassing circles of prayer, everyone he cared about and served. It is a balance that I too have to consider, my obligations and needs as an individual Jew, together with my role on behalf of you all. I also feel I can't mess up. And yet, while in the service, even in the midst of everything I must do, precisely, hopefully capturing your attention and infecting you with my energy, I have my own moments of intimacy with God. I feel the fear and the love that my role imparts, knowing too that God sees me for me, not as a conglomeration of all the roles and projections that I take on in any given day. Wife, daughter, sister, friend, boss, rabbi, but as a world unto myself. I have thankfully many holy meeting places. One of them is right here in this sanctuary with you. Also, when I am spending time with the people for whom I am grateful to God that they are in my life. And most importantly, when I am alone and I can just listen to the wind or my favorite classical music, often stitching, and feel the beauty and the pain of the world fully. I hope that each of you can see in your hearts, if not right now, perhaps over the course of the holiday, your own meeting places, your own holy meeting places. The Slonimer Rebbe, a 20th century rabbi, in his great work Nativot Shalom, writes, "Every individual is a small world unto himself. No person has ever been identical to another person since the creation of the world, and therefore each and every person has a special shlichut, a distinctive purpose for which he was sent. The beginning of all avodah, all service, because of course that's what avodah means. It's a simple word to describe a big ritual, but really avodah just means service, is discovering for what particular purpose one was sent to this world. The high priest, the Kohen Gadol, clearly had his purpose, but he was also so much more. God saw him for all of that, and I can imagine that in the quiet space in Holy of Holies, that knowledge of being seen was a feeling that was anticipated all year and was amazing when it was felt. A dear friend and colleague of mine recently introduced me to a powerful song by the Israeli musician Ishai Ribo, intended Seder HaAvodah, the order of the service. Most of the song lyrics come directly from the traditional liturgy. Like the classical genre of religious poetry describing the rituals of Yom Kippur and the Holy of Holies, Ribo seeks to dramatize the role of the Kohen Gadol and bring us into the very moments when our atonement is effected. Instead of using the loud, triumphant traditional melodies and words we often hear in the synagogue, however, the melody and words that Ishai Ribo sings feel much more personal, revealing an inner spiritual and emotional landscape where the Kohen Gadol feels the burden of being a representative of a collective and his imperfect humanness clash. He is worried that this year redemption might not come as in years past, but it does, as surely as joy, failure, loss, and love have also come at their times. The song is magnificently poignant in the way that it can remind each of us, clergy or not, of all the stresses and burdens that we bear, some of our own choosing, some not, and what it means to be truly seen, even fully understood, even if it is when we are alone, with only God as our companion. In English, translated by Dr. Tamar Ron Marvin, the lyrics begin with the simplicity of the service itself, as described in the Mishnah, but then turn to the intimacy of the experience. He entered the place he entered, and stood in the place he stood, washes his hands, his feet, immerses, emerges, dries off, comes from the place where he comes, goes to the place where he goes, strips off everyday clothes, dresses in white. And this is what he would say: "Oh, please God, forgive the misses, the failures, the wrongs that I've transgressed before you, me and my house." If a person could remember all his deficits and shortcomings, all the wrongs and failures, surely he would count them up like this: 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5. He'd immediately despair, because how could he bear the bitterness of the sin, the shame, the falling short, the loss? And the Kohanim and the people standing in the Azarah, when they'd hear the real name of God coming from the mouth of the Kohen Gadol, they would kneel, bow, fall on their faces. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. He paces the space that he walks, his face the holiest, his back to the hall. Without stain, his words and his deeds aligned. He comes to the place where he comes and walks to the place where he goes. Strips off garments of white, dresses in gold. And this is what he'd say: "Oh God, please forgive the misses, the failures, the wrongs that I've transgressed before you, me and my house." If a person could remember the compassion, the goodness, the kindness, all the times he was rescued, surely he would count them up. 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 of thousands, of many tens of thousands. Miracles and wonders he's done for us through long days and long nights. Ishai Ribo juxtaposes the difference in experiences between the people outside and the Kohen Gadol's personal encounter with God. It is jarring, especially since Ribo sings so calmly, simply, and beautifully. I tell you, if you didn't know what those words were about, you would think, oh, it's just a nice, it's a beautiful, sad, very sad sounding Israeli song, but it's just so incredibly gorgeous, and I encourage you to listen to it after Hag, of course. The mismatch of text versus melody is a reminder that the heart of each of us is separate from others. In this way, Ribot's song is using the Kohen Gadol as a mirror for each of us on Yom Kippur, exploring what it means to rediscover your longings and your fears, even and especially in the midst of a crowd of other people who can never know your heart and soul as intimately as you do. Ribot also turns some of the most famous parts of the ritual on its head. The Kohen Gadol, while alone, must slaughter a bull and with drops of blood account for the sins of him, his family, and the people Israel, counting 1, 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, until he came to 7. In Ribot's version, the Kohen Gadol, caught up in his own memory and feelings of inadequacy, cannot complete the count. When he's able to turn from that experience to blessings, which are actually notably absent in the traditional count, he tumbles over a recounting that is far vaster than that of the blood drops. In his meeting place with God, he is able to let go of mistakes and impossible wishes, embracing love and gratitude. Today, without a temple, there is no intermediary. Each of us must find that meeting place where we can be wholly us, alone, even with everyone around us also searching. The Yiddish playwright and ethnographer Saul Ansky, most famous for his play The Dybbuk, wrote a Hasidic teaching called The Service in the Temple on the Day of Atonement. It moves eloquently from expansiveness to intimate. At the very end of his teaching, he writes, "Wherever a person stands to lift up eyes to heaven, that place is a holy of holies. Every human being created by God in God's own image is a high priest. Each day of a person's life is a day of atonement. Each one of us can face God with the language of the heart. Each one of us can be forgiven. Each one of us can achieve atonement and be made pure in the eyes of God." My hope for each of you, not just over these next 20 or so hours, but in the meeting places of your life, is that you come to know yourself as a whole world, a world that is deserving of love and kindness, but also a world that bleeds and yet is open to repair and renewal. May we each, as we bear our burdens and responsibilities, find ways to be tender with ourselves and emerge out of our sometimes feelings of hopelessness and hurt, embracing the multitudes of things we can be grateful for. Gemar Chatima Tova. All right, my friends, we're going to continue with page 246 with Aleinu. Please rise as you are able. Aleinu Lishaber Hadon HaKol Latei Kula Leotzer Breshit Shelo Asanu Figoye Harasot Velo Samanu Mishakot Adama Shelo Sam Kelkenu Kahem Vegor Aleinu Kechol Amonam Vanavnu Korim Mishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMalchim HaKadosh Baruch Hu כי המלכות שלך היא ומעטים בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, You can have a seat. We're going to go to page 248. L'David Adonai Rivishi Mimi Adonai Mosai Adini Echad. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti meit Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti beveit Adonai kol yemei chayai. Lachaso benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Lachaso benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. One thing I ask of Adonai, this I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's beauty and visit in God's sanctuary. Lule emanti leropetu Adonai be'eretz chayim, kaveh el Adonai chazak v'yemetz libecha, v'kaveh el Adonai. All right. Now we're going to go back a page. This week in the community, we mark the art sites of the following people: Abe Strauber, Edith Goldstein, Valeria Zilbermans, Margaret Friedman Vaughn, Gerald Bloom, Rebecca Nussbaum, Faye Gabert, Max Basowitz, Ruth Rissman, Linda Fishman, Vicki Chesson, Dr. Sidney Robineau, Richard Myers, Paula Steinger, Maury Rappaport, Erin Gavant, Sophie Bass, Ed Berkson, Daniel Roberts, Flora Schatz, Sam Nagel, Louis Goldstein, Margot Favish, and Archie J. Korloff. We also remember the recent passing of David Woolnerman, the beloved father of Michael Woolnerman, the beloved grandfather of Eli Woolnerman and Benjamin Woolnerman, and Faiz Ephraim E. Kalashi, the beloved brother of Nashi Kalashi and the beloved uncle of Jenny Blumberg. May all the memories always be for a blessing whenever possible. Mourner's Cottage is on page 247. All those who are observing the art site, all those who are in mourning, please say along with me and please rise. If it's your custom to rise in solidarity with the mourners or to say Kash above knowing to say Kash for them, please also rise at this time. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divra Kirute V'yamlich Malchute B'chayecho Nuvyomecho Nuvchaye Decho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Uvizman Kari V'imru Amen Yehe Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Ulame Amaya Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh V'yit Hadar V'yit Ale V'yit Halal Shemei Dekudesha B'rechu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Berchata V'shirata Tush B'chata V'nechemata Da'amiran Be'alma V'imru Amen Yehe Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen Oseh Shalom B'imromav Huya Aseh Shalom Aleinu v'al Kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Okay, a few announcements. Last year we were the only conservative synagogue, I think, in the entire country that ended services before 1, so watch me. So the way it's going to go is this. I am going to truck along, and I have some lovely teenagers that you probably, they're going to be some repeat performances from last time. And we're gonna move through the service, and we're hoping to get to Yizkor at 11. If we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. But we're gonna hopefully get there. and that will be approximately when Barb Hirschgiller is gracing us with an alternative service. It's not going to be live streamed. We can only do so much technology in our space, but I hope you guys are going to come. It's at 10, and it will be over there, since I can't say all these things on live stream. So there's going to be that. There's also going to be family services, and then the afternoon we're going to have some classes, and you'll see the topics. They all look amazing. And then we have Mincha, Ne'ilah, and Havdalah, and then the fast is hosted by Tifereth Women's League, which we wouldn't have been able to do the fast, and it's a very expensive endeavor if Women's League hadn't stepped up. So we're very grateful to Women's League for doing that for us, taking care of the community in this way. Day after Women's League, day after tomorrow, I guess, they're going to the meal. I still can't believe this. They're going to the Meals of the Heartland to do some preparation of food for them. So starting off the new year right. And then we still need people to decorate the sukkah and also to finish the sukkah. This is my big, massive plea that both of those things need to get done before Sukkot starts on Friday night. So if you are able-bodied even just a little bit, and you're able to help with part of it, then that would be great, because I would really like the sukkah to be done by the time we decorate it on Friday, because then we're really going to be scrambling, and I don't like to scramble that much. First of all, I can't move that fast, and second of all, it's just not that fun anymore. So, so the other thing that we're going to do is, so Friday night services are shorter because it's a holiday. So you're supposed to already be joyous. Go figure. So they make the services really short, so it's going to be good because then we can have a potluck dinner after. So please come and enjoy potluck with your friends, hopefully in the sukkah, but if it's too cold, the Talmud actually tells you that if it's too cold or rainy, you're not allowed to eat outside in your sukkah. You're supposed to eat inside because you're supposed to be joyful and not miserable with like rain dripping into your soup or whatever. So we're gonna have Sukkot services here. There is a error in your brochure that you got that there is services on Friday morning. We are not having services on Friday morning, and then you have all the stuff for next week. I want to thank the Tifereth Women's League Lewis and Marilyn Hurwitz Flower Fund for the beautiful flowers we have on the bima, and also there is a note to save the date, and the postcards should have gone out the other day, I think, and it's mental health in your community. We're going to have an event with a whole bunch of Drake people, Drake professionals and stuff, teachers and all that, on October 10th from 6:30 to whatever. Yes, anyway, it's all here. I should have not said that on live stream, but I did. Whoops. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say. We'll see you all tomorrow. Yes. I actually called all my colleagues last year and said, what time did you end Yom Kippur morning services? And they were like, 1:45. I was like, 12:45. Anyway, maybe it'll convince you to stay to the end. What else do you have to do? Go home and eat lunch? So anyway, I love you all very much. I hope you have an easy fast and a meaningful holiday. And I'm very grateful ahead of time for all the people who are going to help with family services, and Barb and Deirdre and everybody else who makes this service always a spectacular event. Thank you, and good night. Gemar Chatima Tova. Oh, Yigdal. Yigdal. Sorry, guys. I got too excited. I can sing it as you walk out. How about that? Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach nimsa ve'enei tel metziuto echad ve'en yachid ke'ichudo ne'lam v'gam ein sof le'achduto ein lo demut haguf ve'eno guf lo na'aroch elav kedushato Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra rishon ve'en reshit li reshito hino adon olam v'chol notzar yoreh gedulato u'malchuto shefa nevuato netano el anshe segulato v'tifarto lo kam b'Yisrael kemoshe od navi u'mabit et emunato Torah demet Natan le'amoel al yad nevi'o ne'man beito. Lo yachalif ha'el ve'lo yamir dato le'olamim le'zulato. Sofer v'yodea setarenu mabit l'sof davar bekadmato. Gomel ish chesed kemifalo noten l'rasha ra kerishato. Yishlach l'ketz yamim meshichenu livdot mechake ketz yeshuato. Meitim yechayel berov chasto Baruch adei Hashem tehilato. Meitim yechayel berov chasto Baruch adei Hashem tehilato.
Do you want me to return all the books, or should we leave them for people to review? Oh, I don't know. Probably return that. I'll start collecting. Nice job, okay. Thank you.
She's the mother of twins.
That were just
So she came and she needed you to hear.
yeah, like we had no. I was like,
Anyway, so you took care of it. I got her the candles.
Come for Yisker tomorrow. She's super nice.
okay,
It's just her English is not
okay, it was.
fantastic.
It's okay, but just so you can,
Yes,
You can sleep easy.
you can sleep easy.
She's not a problem.
okay, wonderful. Okay,